Bridgehead is the place to be for fair trade coffee in Ottawa. Whether you are picking up a bag of coffee from the Central Roastery, grabbing a much needed cup during exam week at Carleton University, or a quick cappuccino when you're ice skating on the Rideau Canal, no matter what the occasion, Bridgehead is embedded into Ottawa's coffee culture. This was done by staying true to your values of serving fair trade coffee, being present in the local community, as well as having a strong social impact. Now that the Ottawa market has been conquered and that we have left our impact on the local communities, the entirety of Canada is on the horizon. Today, together with my colleagues from White Swan Consulting, Felix Moritz Leo and myself, Lars, will present our FAIR strategy to you. With this strategy, we are going to make sure that you meet your goals of becoming a leading coffee retailer across Canada. So the challenges you currently face today include the impact of COVID-19, stagnating business opportunities within Ottawa, and growth demands by your shareholders, which ultimately make us wonder how and when should Bridgehead expand while capitalizing on that unique culture. So our answer to this, the FAIR strategy. This is a 4-pillar strategy that will create a model which can first be applied to Ottawa and then to any other area you wish to expand to within Canada. This strategy will lead to $6.85 million in NPV in 4 years, 250 jobs created in the Greater Toronto Area, as well as $850,000 invested into local community initiatives. But we'll take a closer look at all of this later on in today's presentation. For now, Felix, would you be able to give us some closer insights on the current situation?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much, Lars. So let's start by having a look at the company. Bridgehead's success over the past year was really built upon its strong core competencies. The first one being your genuine interest in sustainability, which we can see by authentically promoting fair trade and sustainability throughout Canada. Second, your employees, which really enrich the customer experience through their outstanding day-to-day work. And lastly, your strong engagement within each local community. So as we have seen the foundation of your success, the question becomes, can we translate that into different regions of Canada? And then we looked at the regions. We first evaluated the regions based on the fit to your current operations and the market attractiveness. And here we saw that Toronto is the most viable option in the near future, but we would also like to consider for future expansions, Montreal and Vancouver. Second, we looked at the time. First, the end of the COVID-19 pandemic is on the horizon, which will also come with a relaxation in the measurements. And second, you have a lot of financial resources, which just wait to be invested. This leads to the conclusion that Bridgehead should move immediately to the Toronto market. Next, we also looked at our customers. Here we saw a couple of future trends you should take into account. The first one being that post-pandemic customers are planning to buy more locally sourced products, which we can see in an increase from 56 pre-pandemic to 75% post-pandemic interest in local products. This really implies for you that you should tap into the local buy locally trend. The second trend we see is that customers value information about their products along the whole supply chain. Here we see that 66% either agree or strongly agree that they want to have a transparent supply chain, which means that Bridgehead should convey its CSR efforts to its customers through supply chain visibility. And lastly, we see that customers appreciate businesses who put effort into their local communities. Here we see that as much as 82% say that they factor CSR efforts into their buying decisions, which really means that Bridgehead should continue to foster their local ties. Let's zoom out again. We first identified that Bridgehead should leverage its unique identity during the expansion. Then we saw that the next logical step is an immediate expansion to Toronto. And lastly, we saw that using future customer trends is really a good idea to anticipate growth opportunities. Based on these 3 key insights of our analysis, we've come up with 3 strategies or mode of expansions. The first one being a franchise model throughout Canada. The second, an M&A approach where you should buy local coffee stores to start in these distinct regions. And lastly, a clustering approach. We have then benchmarked these 3 modes of expansion against financial impact, its strategic fit, your ability to compete, and risk. Overall, we've seen that clustering is the best idea for you with an overall total score of 8.14. This is especially due to the recuperating the local approach to different regions and clusters. So Moritz, could you tell us, after we've established that our approach will be clustering, how the recipe to success for Bridget will look like exactly.
Yes, thank you very much, Felix. I can do this. So how are we going to approach our first cluster, Toronto? If you look at our strategy, we can see that we will do this through focusing, adapting, integrating, and recreating Bridgehead into the local community. Let's dive right in with focus. The first thing that we are going to do in Toronto is establishing our central hub for Bridgehead in the young and trendy area of Yorkville. This means we are going to build an initial community within Toronto. And how are we going to do this? We are going to do this by offering Bridgehead as an experience, as a roastery, coffee, but also event location for everybody. Furthermore, we're going to collaborate with Farmboy. What does it mean? Farmboy is a Toronto-based sustainable wholesale market. We're going to offer our products, our sustainable sourced coffee through Farmboy in their locations, as you can see on the map, in order to test the waters in key districts. If we now move on to the next slide, we can see that as soon as we have successfully tested those key locations, we're going to open coffees there. This means that we can establish a wide network of local coffees to establish our local image. After establishing this local image, we can then also expand to the hotspots. This is also indicated by the small red arrows, by the small red dots as the stadium, the airports, and the university. Now, moving on to adapt, we're going to adapt our supply chain. How does the supply chain in Toronto going to work? We're going to have our coffee as a main ingredient, obviously, fair trade sourced from our farmers all around the world, but also the locally sourced food ingredients from Toronto and its surroundings, all going to our central roastery. What are we going to do there? We're going to roast the coffee and prepare the food for further distribution. And the further distribution goes as coffee to other coffees that we are going to sell our unique coffee to, Bridgeheads, local coffees, but also wholesale stores as Farmboy that are going to sell our unique coffee products. Let's look at the next stage. We want to integrate into the local community. First, we are going to do this through our central roastery by providing a place for events and parties at this cafe. And furthermore, we are going to actively offer sustainability, fair trade coffee, and barista workshops. We're also going to engage in local initiatives, which means the community space tendency. That is providing accessible community space to the city for social initiatives. Furthermore, we're going to engage in Toronto for All. With that, we are going to facilitate our platform to raise a strong voice against any forms of discrimination in Toronto. In order to do this, we're going to collaborate with local NGOs, but also the municipality, as for example, the United Way, Greater Toronto, but also Circular Toronto. Looking forward, we're also going to provide customers with an insight into Bridgehead's sustainable practices. This means a QR code on every coffee that you can scan and see where your coffee was sourced. Also have a direct link to the farmer that sourced the predominant coffee in this specific cafe. See the farm and how the farm works, but also most importantly, our initiatives, how we are going to build a community in Toronto. Now, Leo, could you move us further? How we recreate our approach in Ottawa, now also in Toronto?
Yes, of course, Moritz. First, how will we recreate ourselves in order to fit within the community? This will be done by building a team which will facilitate this. First, we will have an ambassador, which will be responsible to communicate our values and build workshop events and initiatives for the community in order for them to relate to us. Then it is important to have the right knowledge when integrating or expanding to Toronto. So we'll have an individual specialized for this, a regional manager, which will manage the suppliers and stores relationships. Lastly, we will build a team of in-store personnel such as baristas, which will directly communicate our values. This will be done in 3 steps. First, by initiating internal Ottawa training, where they will come to us in Ottawa, our new recruits, and we will teach them our values. Secondly, we will bring our experienced baristas or personnel to Toronto in order for them to get further training. And then afterwards, we will maintain quality through periodic workshops and events. To sum it all up, we have come across 3 challenges. First being the effect of COVID on Canadian coffee retail industry. which is tackled by strengthening the supply chain through wholesale. Secondly, we encountered the challenge of stagnating opportunities in Ottawa, which was preventing growth for the company. And this is tackled by integrating ourselves within the Toronto community. And lastly, and most importantly, there was a high demand for growth and profits and a new revenue stream by our shareholders, Aegis, which is tackled by building this new revenue stream. And but how will this all come to fruition? First, we have to consider tomorrow's action points. These are the action points which take into consideration the contacting the key stakeholders of this implementation. And next, and then we have 3 phases. Developing local capabilities, which is all about in-stores and expanding our local shops, and making sure that the central roastery works. Then there's the local supply chain, which refers to our partners. And lastly, we have the training and development, which I already mentioned before. But what is important to mention here is on the right, we have must-win battles, which is which are battles we have to win in order for the implementation to be effective. Now, Lars, could you tell us more about the impact of this strategy?
Yes, of course. Thanks so much, Leo. So the impact of our strategy is indeed very exciting. Before looking closer at exactly what that impact will be, let's see how much this will cost and how it will be financed. So taking our assumptions into account, we see that the cost will be spread somewhat evenly over the 4 years. Costs can be seen to be increasing in years 3 and 4 for the rapid growth in new stores we open. In year 1, however, the majority of costs are attributed to the new roastery. Now that we know what kind of capital is required, let's see what exactly we'll be earning. So we see the increments in different revenue streams. While in the initial years, the different revenue streams are relatively evenly split, once the quantity of local stores grows, we see that these revenues will be coming from coffee sales dramatically increases. All of this will lead to an NPV of 6.85 million Canadian dollars. But looking beyond the bottom line, this strategy has some key impacts relevant to your company values. As mentioned earlier, over 250 jobs will be created in the Greater Toronto Area. Additionally, various other positive impacts mentioned on the slide will take place. Now, let's go back to where we started today's presentation. We were faced with 3 key challenges. Our solution to this was the FAIR strategy. We proposed a cluster strategy which could first be adapted to Toronto and then to any Canadian area you wish to grow in. We are confident that through the FAIR strategy, very soon, all the crucial details which made Bridgehead thrive in Ottawa will make it thrive throughout Canada. Thank you so much, and we're open to any questions you might have on our presentation.